Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to cover the second round game of the Sinquefield Cup 2018 between Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, and his last challenger, Sergej Karjakin from Russia. So Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces started out with c4, and it was an interesting opening we got to see here, especially because there are a lot of move order tricks, and if I saw it correctly, then Carlsen already spent a lot of time here, supposedly 20 minutes in this position already, trying to figure out how he's going to play this and which positions he wants to go for. It seems to me though that he didn't really get anywhere, so we'll see what I mean in a moment. Now d5, a3, bishop e7, d4. Now we kind of have a Catalan. It's just a little bit unusual because the knight is already on c3 and white has played a3, and both moves don't really help white here. Black can take on c4, and we'll see. What we'll see here now is that white is going to win back the pawn, but this position that we're getting to in a moment, this is a well-known position, except for usually white has castled here and the knight is still on b1, the pawn is on a2. And this would be a better version for white if that was the case. Here, white cannot really do too much. Yes, he's going to win this pawn, but the move a3 and also knight on c3 doesn't help white here. Queen a4, now c5. White can win a pawn here. This is very common to play a position like that, but black has really good compensation here, as he has nice play against the king and also a better development. So usually in these positions the black compensation is completely sufficient. So Carlsen took on c5, queen takes c5, bishop e3, queen to c7, and let's take a moment and look at this position. So pawns are equal, and the only difference is in the pawn structure. Black has to isolate pawns. But on the other hand, the pawn c4 can also be an advantage because it's taking away squares. And now we see also why a3 is not a useful move to have, because it gives away the square on b3, potentially for black's pieces. So in general, black is completely fine here. Rook d1. Now, Karjakin played knight d5, which is possible. I think even better would be to go just e5, f3, put the bishop on e6, and you're rock solid here. Of course, this game can go on for a while, but it's hard to imagine that white can do much here. Alright, anyway. Karjakin wanted to simplify matters even further, so he's offering a trade of knights. Rook d8. Knight takes d5, e takes d5, queen c2, queen e7, castle, bishop h3, rook fe1, rook g7. So let's take a moment again and look at the position. We see some things have changed. The pawn structure has improved for black, as he's now supporting the pawn on c4. White has a very nice bishop on d4, and this is also the characteristic here in the position. We have opposite colored bishops. This bishop is reigning the dark squares, and this bishop is, of course, unopposed on the light squares. The bishop is very nice, but still white should not have any advantage here. And why is that? Well, the white king is a little bit less safe than the black king, which is especially important in positions with opposite colored bishops, and also there are no targets really for white. This pawn can always be defended if necessary with the bishop, and black has a little bit more space with the pawn on c4. So let's see how this continues. Bishop c3, rook e8, rook d4, threatening rook h4. And I think here Karjakin makes an impractical decision. He plays queen g5, which pretty much allows white to force a queen trade. Maybe just h6 here would have been better, or queen to e6. Because after queen g5, now white goes queen d2, and queens are traded, and this helps white a little bit because, like I said, the white king was a little bit less safe with this move g3 being played, and there's some holes in the white position. Still, the position is equal. However, the only one that can try something here is white. And, you know, Carlsen loves these kind of positions. He's not risking anything. Well, who doesn't love these positions, right? Not risking anything, and you can just try to play for a win for a very long time. And that's what he does. Even though, objectively, this position is equal. h5, I like this move. King f2, f6, rook d8, rook d4, king h7. So we can go through these moves pretty quickly. Here Carlsen goes h3. Another move that's interesting is to play e4 and then take with the rook to open up some files. But maybe, so the point is, if black takes this pawn, then there's rook d7, and white can at least win this pawn a7. Also some ideas of bishop takes f6. And that would be an improvement to have this passed pawn here on the a-file. But I'm guessing Carlsen didn't want to exchange too many pieces too early. He wanted to really keep as much material on the board as possible for a long time. Rook f4. So you see Carlsen's taking his time. And that's what you should also do when you have such a position. No rush. Because with every move, your opponent will lose a little bit of time. Because he always has to see, oh, is there something going on here? Something going on here? And he always has to make sure that he's not overlooking any threats. And then later he might need that time. So this is a very common approach. Do not rush, take your time when your opponent cannot do anything, like it is the case here. Now Carlsen, though, makes a drastic decision. I would have expected him maybe to play around a little bit longer, you know, go rook d1, maybe go rook e1, see what's going here, always having this idea of g5 in mind. But he decided, well, let's change matters, and he sacrificed an exchange. Rook takes d5, very interesting. Bishop takes, rook takes. So white only has one pawn, but he is not risking anything here because he has a super strong bishop, and these pawns are weak and black has to defend him. So black is still defending here. And here Karjakin goes king g6 and decides to give up this pawn on c4 pretty much, which I think wasn't necessary. So you could have gone rook c7, for example. Maybe didn't like rook d6 going after this pawn, but now black can go rook e7, attacking the pawn on e2, and after e4 go rook e6, and now everything's defended. And I can really not imagine that he will be struggling for much here. Hey man, I'm just recording a video real quick. Okay? Oh. It's all good. But Carlsen went king to g6. So rook c5 going after the pawn, rook h8, trying to come in from the h-file. And now Carlsen took the pawn c4, but still this should be a draw. But white can try for a very long time. Rook c7, rook c1, so we'll go through these moves pretty quickly. There's not much going on here. White is slowly improving his position, but still black should be holding. Rook ac4. So Karjakin is doing a good job, but we see slowly white is making progress, and at some point black has to be accurate. So we see white is gaining more space. Rook d3, rook e8, rook d4, rook c7, king f4, and here actually there's a critical moment. Now Karjakin decides to go with the rook here to keep eyes on the pawn, but he should have just returned to c8, and this is still holding. But at this point, honestly, I would want to defend this position with black. I mean, this has gone badly already. It's tough to defend for sure. And after rook c7, now the position is very good for white already, even though to a human eye this wouldn't be obvious, right? So king h6. So why is that? Well, at a specific moment, now that black has given up the c-file, white can make use of that, and this moment was here. Carlsen misses this moment, though. He plays bishop d4. He could have gone e5 here. Well, if black takes, then white will just go after the a6 pawn, and he has another passed pawn here, and this should be winning. If black goes rook d3 check, then in this position white also has this rook c6 idea, and the best try would be g5, but also here white is going to win the pawn on a6, and probably still some precision is needed, but white should be able to take this one home in the end. Not easy, not easy. Well, let's see the game. Bishop d4, king h7, Now again, you could go back, just bishop c3, but he played b4 instead. And now the positions are around equal again. Now, Carlsen's just playing some moves, playing around, see if he can do anything. But now there's no way to make progress anymore, and Karjakin actually finds a good defensive resource here. He goes g5, which, well, white doesn't want to go back. That would have improved black's position considerably. So Carlsen takes on g6, but now the pawns are not all together anymore, and we see more pawns are coming off the board. In general, as a defender, you want to trade pawns, because with every pawn trade, you're getting closer to a draw. So black is pretty close to a draw here, still not over. Rook h4, rook f6, rook h7, and at this point, I'm assuming also that both players didn't have much time left. We're in the 74th move. Rook h5. What I didn't mention, by the way, you always want to keep the rooks on the board, because with the rook on the board, you can do so much more. So this is why Carlsen never trades the rook here. It's essential for him to have the rook to create threats. King d7, e5. Now Karjakin goes rook f1. He could have also gone king c6, king e4, now rook f6 to cover the 6th rank. But rook f1 is fine. King e4, but now Karjakin goes wrong. He goes king to c6, and then the position is lost. He had two ways to play here. Either go rook e6, but this looks a little bit tricky. King d5, I'm sure this is what he not liked here, and there's the threat of rook h7, so you have to go rook g6 here, only move. It looks weird, right, because white can push the king back to the 8th rank, but white is stuck to this pin here on the d file, so this would be a draw. Another way to play would be just to give checks right away, and then we pretty much have the same idea here. Black has many moves available, but one would be to go rook d8, again creating threats against the bishop. But Karjakin goes king c6, and now Carlsen, of course, takes his chance. He gives two checks, and here he plays e6. He doesn't take on a6, because then black could go after the pawn, and maybe this is what Karjakin had missed, that white can now play e6 and push the pawn to e7. And there's no stopping that. White just can advance with the king, and now we see also g1 is covered, which wouldn't really matter because white could also go king f7. But white is getting the pawn to e7, and that's game over. The pawn is too far advanced, and there's nothing that black can do. Now rook d6, threatening rook d8, rook h8. Rook d8 would be possible. Carlsen says, okay, let me just take this pawn first. There's nothing black can do here anyway. I have all the time in the world. I'll come back to d6. I can push this pawn forward. There's nothing black can do. So Karjakin decided to resign here, and Carlsen took the point home after all. And this is so classic Carlsen, playing out a game forever and then winning in the 88th move. And well, it's difficult to say where exactly Karjakin went wrong, except for that final moment, of course. But I think were these small decisions. First to go into a structure with knight d5, then to allow the queen trade, and then to give up another pawn, and they added up, and then it became more and more difficult to defend. And then in the end, well, Karjakin got tired, made a mistake, and Carlsen could take home the full point. So I hope you guys enjoyed the analysis. Let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to subscribe for future videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.